Hey y'all, so today is my great granddaddy's birthday, and I wanted to talk about his death and how it was very spiritual and the impact that it left with me. And really, the more of the whole message is sometimes we could be planning for things, and the plan that we think how things is going to play out is completely different from our reality. So, you'll hear me say grandfather, but I'm referring to my great grandfather, but I just call him granddaddy. So when I say my grandmother, I'm referring to his daughter, which is my grandmom. Okay. So back in 2012, I had called him. I called him all the time, but I called him specifically on anniversaries or birthdays or holidays. In April 2012, I called him on my grandmom's death anniversary, which is his daughter's death anniversary. So I called him, and he and I are talking. And we were just catching up, and then he told me like he seen her, that she came to visit him, and he was tired. He was just physically tired. His body was aching. He was in pain, and he was ready to go with the Lord. So I was, I think, about 21, maybe 22 at the time. And I instantly am like, oh my gosh, like granddaddy never talks like this. He never says things like this. So I was under the impression that he was going to pass away that day. And obviously that was my grandmom's anniversary date. So I was just like really emotional. I was in Pennsylvania. I didn't have the money to go come down to Florida. So I was just like emotionally like all over the place, right? And I just kept thinking like I need to hurry up and get to Florida. So he and I had that conversation. The conversation ended. Thankfully, he did not pass that day. From that moment forward, in April of 2012, all up until the fall, I kept trying to come up with the money, right? I was not working. I had just had a baby. I didn't have the money. So I knew in the back of my head, I needed to get to Florida. I need to get to Florida. I need to get to Florida. So fast forward up until I think like September, my baby dad had worked some extra hours, and he was able to give me the money to get a ticket. So I knew that I was going to go in November because I got the money towards like the end of September, right? To go down, and I'm like, well, Thanksgiving is coming up. I can go for 2 weeks and stay down there for Thanksgiving or whatever, whatever. So as I'm getting ready to book the trip, I had the dates initially for Thanksgiving for 2 weeks in November. And at the very last second, right when I was getting ready to book it, I changed it. And my baby dad was like, well, why would you change the dates? And I'm like, well, I need to hurry up and get down there. So I changed it from going for 2 weeks for Thanksgiving to the first weekend of November. So he's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would you go for a weekend when you can go for 2 weeks? And I just was so adamant. I'm like, I need to hurry and get there. So for me, I wasn't concerned about the length of time. I was just concerned about getting there. And I did not understand how Holy Spirit really worked. I did not understand how, you know, God will work through you, and you don't even know why you're doing things sometimes, but that's God working through you. I didn't understand that at that time. I'm thinking this is just random, and nothing is ever random. So I booked the trip for the beginning of November, and then I called him. I'm like, Granddaddy, I'm coming down there at the beginning of November. I'm bringing Mason with me because my son, he was named after my grandfather, his middle name. So they had the same middle name, and he had not met him at that time. The plan was to bring my son down to Florida so he can meet him, and then also I was able to spend time with my granddaddy because I missed him. And then, given the conversation that we had months earlier in the year, I really wanted to see him. So I was so excited, called him, told him I had the trip booked. My granddaddy was so excited. Everything was planned, right? So, just to recap, remember I said back in April on my grandmom's anniversary, he told me he seen her and how he was tired and he wanted to go to the Lord. Okay. At the end of September, I booked my trip to go to Florida the beginning of November. Okay. So, October rolls around. Specifically October 31st, which is my grandmom's birthday. So the one who passed away in April, her birthday is in October. So that day was a very normal day for me. I remember the one thing that kind of looking back was different was I turned my phone off that morning. So after my daughter went to daycare, I'm at home with my son, and I turned my phone off so that me and him could go take a nap uninterrupted. That was very out of the normal for me because I never turned my phone off. But saying that to say, when I woke up, I seen that I had a voicemail, and it was from my cousin, and she was telling me I needed to call ASAP. Mind you, this is Halloween. So it's early afternoon. I call. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, and basically the message I got is, can you change your flight to get here today? Mind you, it's the early afternoon. The conversation is, can you change your flight so you can hurry up and get here today? Because if not, granddaddy is not going to be here. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Mind you, I had no idea that he was on hospice. The rest of the family knew, but they did not tell me he was on hospice. I had no idea whatsoever. So this was something that they already knew, that he was dying. I did not know that. That was shielded from me. So it was a big surprise when it was like, oh, the hospice nurse is here, and she said he's not going to make it throughout the night. What the hell are you talking about? My trip is next week. I'm coming down there to come see my granddaddy. I'm bringing my son down there, and now you're talking about he's not going to be here. It was a really hard pill for me to swallow because it was not expected on my end, right? So obviously I was not able to make it there by the end of the day, and my granddaddy did pass that day, which means he passed on his daughter's birthday. And like I said, fast forward earlier that year on her anniversary, he had already told me that he was tired and he seen her and he was ready to go with the Lord. I thought he was going to go that day. Nope, he went on her birthday. And then, as we know, 31st is the last day of the month. So then that following weekend was the weekend that I was coming down. I had already had it scheduled. Well, that following weekend ended up being his funeral. So basically, God made sure I had a way to get to his funeral, to make sure I had a way to come down to say my goodbyes, to make sure that I was just included in that last little bit, because God also was aware of the family dynamic with other people and how the disconnect was, the lack of information that they told me, the lack of concern, the lack of care. People really tried to shield me out of the picture. And it just got worse after he passed away, to the point where I had to completely cut that side of the family off, because you cannot love someone past their hatred for you, and this is something I had to realize. And people just, it's so much built up resentment and animosity in my family dynamic that started way before me, and it just unfortunately passed down to me. And for me, I'm not going to kiss ass. I'm not going to fight a battle that I know I cannot win. I cannot convince these people to treat me right. And you shouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So besides the point, basically what I'm getting at is God made sure that he designed it where I would be able to come say my goodbyes. Because had my granddaddy would have passed at any other time before then, I would not have been in a position to come say goodbye. Nobody would have cared or tried to help me come to Florida. So God orchestrated it that way. Although I was under the impression that I was coming to visit him, that just was not my reality. But I still thank God that he orchestrated it the way he did, because it was very memorable. I will never forget the events. And although we may not understand why we're doing things at that time, God always puts things together at the perfect time, the perfect way it should be. And I thank him for that, because again, had he not done that, I wouldn't have been able to say my last goodbyes to my granddaddy. And more specifically, it really taught me in life that be appreciative of everything and be able to go along with the flow.